Welcome back to another episode of the Field of 68's off-season grades. My name is Rob Dauster. I have a new member of the Field of 68 rotation with us, Ant Wright. He played at Michigan. He played at Oak Hill Academy. He is one of the best Big Ten creators on the internet, and we are going to break down his Wolverines today. We're talking Michigan, and we are talking the Dusty May era, and that is kind of where things start. And we'll get into the players that they added first and foremost, or in a second, Ant. But first and foremost, I want to talk about Dusty replacing Juwan Howard. How do you feel about that? And do you think that he is set up for success at the Big Ten level moving forward?
Um, I do. I do like the support that he's gotten. I know people, if you pay attention, I was all last year, I was very dusty mid all year long, all year long. I felt that, Florida Atlantic, they lost to Bryant and they're still ranked in the top 10. Things like that kind of irritate me. So yeah, like I thought that Florida Atlantic had a very lackluster season in terms of comparing it to how the media viewed them. And of course, that always ruffles my feathers. But when they let go of Juwan and they brought in Dusty, first thing that I wanted to kind of look at was playing style, right? And you're going to see a very different style of play. You're going to see a semblance of an actual basketball program. What it was last year was an absolute embarrassment on a team that 8 wins on a team that your point guard was probably an all Big Ten level point guard who just went to Kansas State, right, for mid-high six figures. Olivier Kamwa, who for Team Finland right now is like maybe their best player. And you're looking at Terrace Reed, who is now playing at UConn, and then you have a guy who didn't play, who's like the best player for Lebanon. You have Will Cheddar, who was the most efficient player in the country for a majority of last season. You have Terrence Williams, who was shooting like over 40% from three at one point, now transferred to USC. You had the pieces to be a really good team. You saw that in the first few games, and it just fell off a cliff. And it was probably one of the more embarrassing things that I've seen. I didn't find much joy watching last season, and I think that's going to be the nice part about this year is that you're going to enjoy basketball because you're going to see basketball being played and you have a semblance of organization. You have a semblance of scouting going on. I think you're going to have a team that's going to get up and down the court, shoot a bunch of shots, skilled, highly skilled players. Not a lot of raw talent on this team. And raw talent meaning like just depending on athleticism, right? Like these guys are very, very skilled, can really shoot the ball, get up and down the court, unselfish, tough. Um, and I like the fact that he has made an effort on really getting everyone in the Michigan family back in. And I haven't had that in several years. So like being able to, start off on that foot, he automatically has a lot of support around campus for sure.
Yeah, Dusty is one of those guys that that gets it when it comes to being able to run a program and connect with people outside the program. I do think that he still has a little bit to prove as a coach in the sense that we've seen these guys that were kind of in the same mold as him. I think of like a Shaka Smart. I think of an Archie Miller. These young guys that made a run at a program that wasn't quite at one of the Power Six, now Power Five level schools. Has a little bit of sustained success, and then ends up getting the bigger, like the big job that he wants and maybe doesn't quite live up to the expectations that he had. So I still do think that he has something to prove, and it's not necessarily a home run hire, but I do think that when you when you go 8-23 as Michigan,
Yeah.
it's not going to be that difficult to be able to take a step forward. So let's talk about the roster he's put together. He brought in some an interesting crew of transfers, right? Roddy Gale's a big one for me, but you also got Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden, two of the better fives that I don't know if you're going to be able to play them together. Trey Donaldson, who was a really good kind of like connective piece point guard at Auburn. Sam Walters, who's a 6'10 lefty that can shoot it. Reuben Jones, big, versatile shooter, defensive guy from North Texas. A couple freshmen and Justin Pippen and Zarrell Brooks. And then obviously Namari Burnett is back. Will Cheddar is back. And I believe Jace Howard is back as well, right? Which
Yeah.
probably won't be awkward in the very least. So, what do you make of this roster that Dusty has put together? I'm intrigued by it. I don't know if it's necessarily the perfect roster.
Yeah, I mean, Vlad is going to be integral in this entire thing as a paint protector, paint enforcer. Uh, he came in at Texas Tech and then he went to Florida Atlantic. Now he's back with, back at the power level. I think he's going to play with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, saying like, hey, I belong here. Um, Good rim protector. He's got game. He's got game everywhere on the left block, the right block, in the middle, both hands. He's gonna be very important. I think Wolf and Vlad can play together. I think Wolf shoots well enough to do that.
Interesting.
Um,
You
yeah,
do.
I think he shoots well enough to do that for sure. And he can handle the ball. Have you ever seen him like
Yeah. No,
so
he's
yeah,
skilled. He's
it's
skilled. Like that,
it's
Yale kind of
crazy.
ran offense through him as the five man at certain times. Like he's not just a big stiff. Like he can play a little bit, he can shoot a little bit.
Yeah,
I worry about if you do that, you're putting him at the four defensively. And I don't know, like in the Big Ten, maybe it works in the Big Ten if you got like a Trey Kaufman Wren as your four man at Purdue
right,
or something like that. But
right.
um like if it's I just that's what I worry about is on the defensive end of the floor. Like he's a five defensively. Like you don't want him guarding people running around on the perimeter.
Yeah, he did. Whenever he played against, like, I'm not gonna say like bigger than him, but like an athletic and talented five, he did float a lot naturally. So I think just from like a mental standpoint, being able to play a guy like playing alongside someone like Vlad, who's also his size, I think will give him some security and more confidence um to hoop. But we'll see. We'll see.
It's
Sam
an option. At the
Walters,
very least, it's an option. I didn't yeah,
yeah.
it's an option.
Um, Sam Walters, he's gonna be your pure four. Same with like Cheddar. Those are going to be very similar guys. I think Cheddar is more apt to more like an inside out game. Um, this season's going to rely on Roddy Gale and Reuben Jones, in my opinion. Those two guys being bigger guards, they got to be able to control tempo. Roddy's got to get back to making shots, hit more threes as a freshman. When he was given more responsibility as a sophomore, he didn't shoot it as well. But he's someone who can get downhill. He likes he likes to play physical. He likes to get up and down the court. Um, Reuben Jones, I think Reuben Jones is he's like a diamond in the rough, man. I think he's someone who is gonna he could explode this year. And I say that because when he was at North Texas, he's playing at one of the slowest schools. Like most of his like he had, I believe he averaged, I believe like two to three times a game. He had to jack up a shot with under three or four seconds left on the clock. He averaged that. John L. Davis at FAU averaged that one per game, and he was the highest one. So the pace of play is going to be so much faster. He's going to be able to look for his opportunities earlier, not have to wait until 7 seconds are left on the clock, and they got to pass him the ball. He's got to do his thing. The It's going to open up for him because he's going to be able to attack for the full 30, not just the first five and then the last five. It's just going to open him up so much more. He's going to get way more efficient too, way more efficient because you're giving him more time to attack.
If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM Sportsbook. We are going to be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68 throughout the year. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, you can use bonus code FIELD, and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. The best part, all you need to do is deposit and bet $10 of your own hard-earned money to be eligible. Here's how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using that bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure that you use that bonus code FIELD when you sign up. BetMGM is going to have some fun offers available throughout the NBA playoffs. Bet insurance tokens, odds boost, and what I love, a nice parlay boost or two from time to time, as well as a ridiculous array of player prop bets for any sport that you could possibly imagine betting on. BetMGM is and always will be the king of the prop bet. So go download the BetMGM app, use the bonus code FIELD, and sign up today. And while I've got you, a quick request. The best way to support the Field of 68 content that you get for free is to engage with us. Rate and review the podcast. Like and share the YouTube videos. Tell your friends about us. It all helps in a world where the algorithm is king. And now, back to the show. Yeah, I think to me, Roddy Gale is a guy. Like, I think Reuben Jones will be a good player, but to me, he's more of like the complementary piece. I see Roddy being the guy where, I think you mentioned on another one of the episodes that we did uh, that you need a pro on the wing, right? You need a killer on the wing if you're going to have that level of success. And I don't know if they necessarily have a pro, but to me, Roddy Gale is the closest thing that you have to being a guy where, like, you give him the ball, say, get out of the way, he's going to go make something happen. But my
Absolutely.
question to you is, you watched a lot of Ohio State last year. They had that stretch where they kind of fell off, right? And the same thing happened the year before that. So my biggest concern is, like, you're bringing in Roddy Gale and you're asking him to kind of be the guy and do it on a team contending for a Big Ten title. When the last 2 years, when that happened, the wheels kind of fell off of the season. So that's, to me, that is my biggest question. That, to me, that's the X factor of this group. Like, can Roddy Gale be the guy on a Big Ten contender?
That's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Playing alongside two other guys who can really, really shoot it. And you're not worried about, because I think last year too, they had a couple guards coming off the bench quite a bit. You're not going to have that this year. I think it's going to be them and them only. It's going to be Roddy. It's going to be Roddy, Trey, Ruben are controlling pretty much everything.
Yep.
I think Namari is going to be a great six man. Then I think you're going to have someone like then you're going to have one of the freshmen hopefully come through, pop through. I think there's one more guy, Lorenzo Cason, I believe his name is.
Yep.
He was with FAU. But overall, it's going to come down to guard play, and it's going to come down to Vlad. Um, and I do think it's missing star power right now, but it's like one of those things that we have to kind of wait and see. A lot of good things, like it's just one of those has a decent floor. You're just questioning what the ceiling is.
Yeah, that's exactly where I am with it, right? Like, I think that
You know
they
what I
are
mean?
probably good enough to be in the mix to be a tournament team. I'd be surprised, like, if at the bare minimum, worst case scenario, they aren't one of those teams that enters Selection Sunday as, like, they're on the bubble. They got a chance to get in. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um, I think that they can win 20 games. And if you win 20 games in the Big Ten, I think that you're going to be good enough to have a shot at getting into the NCAA tournament.
yeah.
I just don't see them in being able to compete with, over the course of a full season, a Purdue, an Indiana, an Illinois, um, maybe a Rutgers. I'm higher on UCLA than I think a lot of people are. But I think,
I like UCLA a lot.
yeah, I think Michigan is kind of that next group where they should be good enough to be a tournament team. But I think that they're one of those teams where they're going to win like 22 games. They'll have a couple of, maybe one game they won that they shouldn't have won. They're probably not going to lose to a team they shouldn't lose to. I just don't see how they end up being a team that wins more than a game in the tournament. Like to me, if you're Dusty in this first year and you win 20 games and you get a ticket to the dance and maybe you win a game, you're sitting there thinking, all right, I had a pretty damn good first season here.
Oh, if they're in as like a 10 seed, that's a great season.
Yep.
This team. Yeah, it's gonna go with kind of how Roddy, Ruben, and Vlad go. And if Roddy and Ruben kind of just play the same way as last year is, and they're gonna play that and just carry that into this team and not really turn up, this team's gonna be, they're gonna be in that mid to low ish part of the Big Ten. But if Roddy Gale, Ruben turn up, Vlad's doing this thing, I think you could see them between that 5 and 8, somewhere in there in the
Yeah.
league for sure.
Yep. Yeah, I think we're on the same page there. All right, give me your offseason grades and we can get out of here, Ant.
Off-season grades, B plus, B plus, B, B. Yeah, I'll say B. I wish they kept Christian Anderson, man. I really hope. I think he's going to be really freaking good. I wish they kept Christian Anderson. And I wish that they could have got Jameer from Florida State. That would have up the ante a bit. And I'm not questioning Vlad and Wolf, just that they are on the smaller side. They're not like these like big strong dudes, which is fine. They are going to be more skilled, which is always a good thing. Um, but uh, but but playing style is going to be very, very important. But Dusty being able to come in and round out a roster of shooters and high school players, I still think falls in that B plus range for sure.
Yeah, so I went with B minus. I think that the hire of Dusty, like just that alone, I think your upgrade, like to me, that's an A higher. I think that that is about as good as you could have gotten if you're Michigan, especially since it was kind of a surprise. I don't know if you remember how that all went down, but it was like, is he going to go to Louisville? Where's he going to go next? Is this going to open? Is that going to open?
No, that was
Oh,
actually they finessed. His agent's really good. His
yeah,
his agent finessed that, but yeah.
yeah, that one kind of it
He was
was.
never going to Louisville.
Yeah, no, I know he wasn't going to Louisville, but it was,
He was never
but it,
going to Louisville.
that was a it was a interesting one to kind of come out of nowhere. So I do think that getting Michigan is the getting Dusty May to me is like that's about as good as you could have done. I think he's got a fine roster here. I think it could have been better. But I think that a B minus when you consider what they lost, the situation they were in last year, it's very easy to kind of turn this thing around and get it to they have no pressure, right? We talk about expectation. The expectation here is just like be fun. Like give us something to root for.
Something, yeah,
Give us something that we actually want to turn on and watch. And
absolutely.
that is the bare minimum that he needed to be able to do this year. I think he'll be able to do it. Listen, and it's been a pleasure, man. Appreciate you being here.
Yes, sir. Anytime.